People, so other people can see.
Hello?
Oh, Shalom, we're doing the morning prayers right now.
Okay.
I might put your Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barak Yahweh Basham Yehoshai Asherah Nathan Lanawa Hashabat Bashalawam the Water Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it. The Ali Ma'ad Sharai Makad, Psalms 121. Anya Harayam Mayim Ye Oh Harayam Mayan Yabawa Azariya Yabawa Mayahu Shai Shemayim Warataza La Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yela Yanawam Shashramarka Hanela Yanawam Wala Yeshan Shashramar Yeshrele Yahweh Shamaria Yahweh Tazalia Ayo Yad Yim Yim Ye Yawamam Hashamash La Kaya Wayarak La Balayala Yahweh Yashamaria Makal Rai Yashama Na Pasha Yahweh Yashama Habalakya Wabawa Aya My Thawa I will Basham Yahweh Shatha Wada Aman.
Psalms 121. I will lift up my eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shema Yasharala, hear O Israel. Shema Yasharala, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Echad. Shema Yasharala, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Echad. Shema Yasharala, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Echad.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Tapala Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abiyanawa Shabbat Shemayim Kodash Hayya Shamka Yahweh Malakwaka Saba'a Ratazawanka Hayya Aisha Barataza Kam Bashamayim Lathamanawa Lakham Yawam Zag Wasalaknawa Kabawatnawa Kasalaknawa Kabawat Yanawa Wala Abiyanawa Oh Nasayawan above Hawashinawa Marai Kaye Laka Hamalakwak Wa'ala Wathaparat Waiwalam Maman.
Matthew 6:9. After this manner therefore pray, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen. Ishabwa, you see that? Salak. Am I putting Jerusalem standing for Jerusalem? Got a little ahead of myself there. Aishara Matazawaf, the Ten Commandments. La'ad, Yahayat, Lakad, Alahayim, Akarim, Alpanyat, La'ad, Thaishad, Lakad, Paso, Wala'ad, Thibadam, La'ad, Talakwaka, Shamweb, Yahweh, Alahayaka, Lashawat, Zakar, Ath, Hayawam, Hashabath, Lakodashwa, Kabad, Abiyaka, Wa Amaka, La'ad, Taratazak, La'ad, Thana'at, La'ad, Thaganab, La'ad, Thainad, Shakur, La'ad, Tachamad, Ko, Asherat, Lara'ika, Aman.
Exodus 20:2. I am the Lord thy God, which I brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. Not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that their days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Amen. I thought you Shabbat. Now we see it. What? Shimi Hawashai, Sharanat and an Alpaya, Gapan Thwada Aman. La Yahweh by Shimi Hawashai, Yashra. English translation: Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. And Magua, Panyawai, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Barakah Yahweh, Haggadah, Rakawam, Abiyah, Wanawa'ay, Eliyawan, Malak, Shal, Shamayim, Warataza, Waka, Dabayim, Kayayam, Wagam, Hamashayak, Mayahawe, Arawanawe, Ahabnawe, Hapalad, Yawa Aitize, Yahawashai, Zakarnawe, Yahawe, Baratazawan, Ainka, Yasha'ale, Izarnawe, Banai, Wasat, Yasha'ale, Oh, nawa yam yan aita kaya wamyam makodam babakushay shalak Mike Allah watazwadak Alahayam la maganawa rapharnawa washama elnawa bakur shalak haroka shao yahawashai lanawa lamadnawa rabiam kakama tabawana wada ai shao the barka basham yahawashai for wada them yet why will English translation: Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth and all things living, and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel, Most High, we beg you, right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, always and forever, so be it. Repeat the Hebrew only. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Natan Lanawa, Ha Tawarat. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us light to see. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Natan Lanawa, Awar, Lara Awat. In the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the ram's horn to call the people. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Natan Lanawa, Karan, Ha'ayot, La Korah, Ha'aim. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Natan Lanawa, Hasheman, Zayath, Lamashak, Yasha'ala, Yeshabwa. Be seated. All right, so Shalom Yasharella.
Shalom.
So Shalom everybody here in the Philly school. Shalom everybody watching us on live stream, and Shalom everybody listening in on teleconference. Welcome to Had Yasher Al Kanas, or the Congregation of Israel, where we teach that the so-called Black, Latin, and Native Americans are indeed the 12 tribes of Israel, once lost, now found, and that we fall into a lower state, politically, economically, even religiously, because we broke the laws of God found in the Bible given to us by Moses, and that we come out of this lower state that we fall into by turning back to these commandments we broke by following Jesus Christ as our example. As you read in the scriptures, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. Every week from Friday, Sunday, and Saturday, sundown is the Sabbath of the Lord our God. And what we do is we have a Sabbath service. Today, our reading for the Sabbath service is going to be Revelation chapter 20 and chapter 21. Once again, Revelation chapter 20 and 21 will be our reading for today. My name is Nabia Zerubbabel. I'll be doing the service. For your records, today is September 23rd, 2017, according to the Gregorian calendar. But according to our calendar, it's the 7th month and the 4th day. So September 23rd, 2017, the 7th month and the 4th day. So let's begin with Revelation chapter 20 first in the Hebrew. So Revelation chapter 20 by Baria Ashwan. It just means in the Hebrew first. What's that? Yeah, that's what I said. I said something else? Yeah. Yeah. Revelation 20 to 21. If anyone watching or listening for the first time, you can get a copy of our Sabbath readings from now till December. Just to let myself know, send me an email or a text, and I'll add you to our distribution. Send it out to the distribution already, to you individually if need be. So Revelation chapter 20, in verse 1, it reads, Wa'ara'a mala'ak yawarad, that's what you have, right? Man ha-shemayim waba yadwa mapathak ha-thahawam wa kabo garawo. 2. Wayathapash ath hathana yan ath hana chash hakwadam wanya hawa'a hamalashin wahawa'a ha shatan waha'a rasa rawa la alap shanayam. 3. Where shall Yakawa Bathawam Waya Sagar Ba'idwa Watha Khatham Alyawa Lama Ain La'a Yadayak I war Ath Hagawoyam Aid Kowath Alap Hashana Hashanayam Wa'akarya Yathar La Zaman Matazair. 4. Wa'ara'a Kasawath Waya Shabwa Alyaham Wahamashapat Wahamashapat judgment. Nathan give Ba Yadam Wana Pashwath Haharawagyam Ail Aidwath Yahawashai Wa Ail Debar Ha Alahayam Wa Asherala'a Ha Shath Chowa La Khaya Wala Tazalama Wala A Wa Bolwa Ath Thawa Ail Matazak watham wa'il yadam wayakwa wamwa wayakhayawa wayamalakwa ain hamashiyak wa alap shanyam 5 ha mathyam la'a kwamwa la khayayam aid kolwa alap ha shanyam za'af haya'a hafakhaya hara'ash wana 6 ashaya ha'ayash Wakwarawash hawa'a ashara khalakwa la kowum bathakaya hara ashwana ba'oha la'a yashalat hamawat ha shanya kaya yahayawa kahanyam la alahayam wala ma shayak wayama lakwa afwa alap shanyam 7 wa kharya kowath alap hashanayam I think this would be shanyam. I want to connect the shan. Hashanyam or Hashanayam Yathar Hashatan Mabayath Mashamawa 8 Wayataza Laha Dayak Ath Hagoyam nations Ba'arabai Kanapwa Ha'arataza Ath Gawag Wama Gawag Wa Lakwa Batizam Lama Lamalakama Ashara Masaparam Kasawo Hayam 9 Waya Ailwa Ail Marachab Ya Arataza Waya Sab Wa Af Hakana Hakwadashyam Wa Af Ha'ayar Hakhabayaba Watharad Ash Ma'ath Ha'alahayam Man Ha Shamyam Watha Akol Atham 10 Wahashatan Ashara Hadayakam Hamalak Ba'agam Ash Wagaparyath Ashara Sham Gum Hakhaya Wanaba Wa Nabaya Ha Shakur Waya Sarwa Yawamam Wa Layala La'aiwalam Amawa Iwalam no Ilawamayam 11 Wa Ara'a Kasa Laban Wagarawo Wa'ath Hayashab Ilyawa Ashara Mapanyawa Naswa Arataza Washamayam wa shemayim wala'a namataza laham makwam 12 wa af hamathayam hakwatanyam ain hagadoyam imadyam lapanya ha'alahayam ha saparium na patha na pathakyum waya pathak sapar akhar ashara hawa'a sapar hakha yayam waya shapatwa yam ayo paya hakathawab basaparium kama aish yaham 13 wayathan hayam ath mathyawa wahama waf waha sha'awo nathanwa ath mathyaham waya shapatwa ayash kama aish yaham 14 wahama waf wa shawo ha shalakwa bagam ha'ash wahawa'a hamawaf hashanya 15 wakol ayash asharala'a nashata namataza kathawab basapar hakhayayam ha shalak ba agam hawash shalak ha'ash lake of fire ba agam hawash. Interesting. Okay. So that completes Revelation 20 in the Hebrew. So now let's read it in the English. Many of us on here are first language, at least in this life. So sad.
First language of the earth, right?
Hebrew, right? We're not talking about the English.
No, yeah. First language of the earth. You get it, right?
That's why it means of the past, right? That's what Ibar actually means in Hebrew.
Over.
Means of my past or pertaining to the past. I'm flipping to the middle. I got to flip to the end. As so-called Christians say, yes, we're in a time of revelation, brother. We're in a time of the Bible, brother. We're in a time of the Bible. All day, every day. Since the beginning, we've always been in the time of the Bible.
They come up with Old Testament, New Testament.
It's easy. Because the Old Testament is going into what? The Old Testament along with the Old Covenant. Versus the New Testament is what? Going through Christ. People hear old and they think, oh man, it's old. Right? Like over and done with. But no, it's just talking about the two contracts the Most High made with us. And it's funny because we're still under the Old Covenant, but we're under the New Testament. Because the covenant and the testament are different.
When you go to the Tanakh, it doesn't say like old. It doesn't say that.
Right, but I'm saying, I'm just answering your question. Because it's pertaining to the Old Covenant, which was what we're still under. If you keep my commandments, I'll bless you. If you break my commandments, I'll curse you. And the Old Testament was what? The blood of animals. For the time of the New Testament going forward was the blood of Christ. Right? Because the Old Testament had an Old Testator, which was the lambs, the bullocks, right? The goats. That's the Old Testament, literally. The testators that go for the Old Testament, which was when you sin or transgress, you'll offer up an animal. You'll offer up your own blood. But the New Testament is Christ, him being put on the cross, his pure blood being shed on the cross because he lived a pure life, right? We know the life is in the blood, like the law says. So now he's that New Testament. His blood is indeed the New Testament. He's the testator of the New Testament. So that's where the Old Testament, New Testament actually comes in. Most folks don't even know what the Testament's even talking about. But yeah, we've done classes on that before. We'll probably have to do it again because that's still a big stumbling block for a lot of people. So this is Revelation chapter 20 in verse 1. So now we read before, John is having visions of what? As we read before, the rise and fall of empires and also the rise of this empire in particular, right? The horde that rides on top of the scarlet colored beast, right? We went into why this country, America, is that horde that rides on the beast, why the beast was red. We went into that, right? Even the fact that she's a whore or a harlot decked with silver and gold, a different costly array. We went into that as well, how that represented this country. But now we're going to go into some other prophecy. We're going to do some time jumping based on when we read it with the right understanding. But like I said, most folks read this and they don't understand, right? Because they don't have someone to guide them that's in the spirit. As you read, we'll see what we mean. Revelation 20:1, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. Now, remember we talked about this before. We talked about that bottomless pit. We read about the bottomless pit back when we were going through Revelation 9, right? Which was talking about the prophecy pertaining to World War I. So this is going into World War I in that theater, right? I should say the bottomless pit is talking about Europe, because when the bottomless pit was referred to back then, it was talking about that theater of war, which mainly took place in Europe, which was World War I, right? So if you don't have that, to already just put that the bottomless pit represents Europe. You can link it with verse 1 of chapter 20. And then you can link it with Revelation chapter 9. Verses 1 and 2, where it makes references to this same bottomless pit and the angel associated with them. So reading on, let me read from the top again. Revelation chapter 20, verse 1, I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. Why does he have this great chain in his hand and a key? Let's find out. He laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. So verse 2 is important as well, because what verse 2 is talking about is not something that hasn't happened yet. This is talking about something that's happened already. So write this down in your notes, that this verse, when it says bound him 1,000 years, you can write that the 1,000 years here is talking about the dark ages. Here is talking about the dark ages. Because what happened was what? From roughly 476 to 1452. Just write those years down. You look up dark ages in any primary or secondary source, you'll see that the years that they set it in, when you had the time of the medieval powers rise in Europe. In many places it was us, depending on what time frame you look at. And of course the rise of different empires in northern and western Africa, which was us. These were the dark ages. Like, but when brothers go into the scholarship, they often make jokes. They say, here, they called it dark because they said no one could read or write. But no, that wasn't the case. It was just you that went down low. You that went into the caves of the earth and came down low. But no, scholarship and understanding was It just wasn't under your authority. And they try to cover the face of the judges thereof with all these movies in the medieval times where they got our people looking like them, just like they do with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. When you read throughout history, eyewitness accounts and letters that messengers wrote, they describe a lot of the different rulers of Europe as swarthy, right? Even call them stuff like the Black Prince, right? Even their surnames like Douglas and Dougal and Douglas and Dunn, all these just being different names pertaining to or meaning black or dark, right? Like I said, we won't do a whole history lesson now, but you touch on certain key figures, you'll find they were actually people of color. When you read the evidence, you find the older paintings and artifacts, not the new ones they put out there when they did this whitewash that we see today. Like I said, most folks are none the wiser. So once again, this 1,000 years is talking about the Dark Age, which was from 476 AD to 1452 AD. Which was when the Roman Empire, 466 AD, was when the Roman Empire was fully sacked. They had been going back and forth over the centuries in the first millennia with the different Germanic tribes like the Vandals, the Visigoths, right? Then they finally fell and were taken over by them in 476 AD. But then the reign of our people, like, unfortunately, in some cases we did, but it was very rare. We weren't following the Most High in complete truth. But you had pretty much the rebirth of the Roman Empire, and you had actually a splitting much later around the 10,000s. You had the East and the Western Kingdom. One still ruled in Rome, right? Under our people, under the Holy Roman Empire. But then you also had one in the East, which was called the Byzantine Empire, right? Once again, our ancestors going by different names, but that ruled over, had dominance in those two different regions. And they fought over many years. But that didn't come to an end until 1452 AD, with the fall of the capital of the Byzantine Empire, which was known as Constantinople, and it became Istanbul when the Ottoman Turks became a prominent force, and that happened over a couple centuries leading up to 1452. You read about them expanding in the Middle East, North Africa, and finally they expanded into Europe, which you go into these Turks, they were Edomites, right? They came out of the Khazarian Empire, you do their lineage, right? And then they finally took over Constantinople, which was the capital city of the Eastern Empire, and then renamed it Istanbul, right? And that's in what we now call Turkey today. So that's what happened in 1452 AD, was the beginning of the rise of Esau once again. And then the rise of Esau in other places in Europe, and the beginning of what we now call the Renaissance, right? Which was Europe now losing rule to blacks, so-called blacks, and then coming back under so-called white rule under Greco-Roman ideals and customs, right? That's where you have what we now see when it comes to the British form of government, the French form of government, German form of government, them adopting many things from the Greco-Roman style of rule, as far as having a Senate, a House of Commons, right? All these things being based on the Roman style of government. The buildings with the columns, right? Latin found in their laws, right? Just like you see here in America, right? So that's it in a nutshell. Like I said, to go into detail of all different events in between will require a series of classes. But just remember that time frame. Like I said, you can look it up in history and you'll see what happened on those 2 years, and you can verify it. So this was the future prophecy when John wrote it, but now it's the history to us now in 2017. And then also write down that what the devil here is just talking about Esau, the physical devil. as we touched on before too, in this context, talking about the physical arm of Satan on the earth, which is Esau. Just like we as Israel are supposed to be what? Angels in the flesh, or apostles, because angel and apostle the same thing, just means messenger. Right?
Where we at now?
We're in verse 3 of Revelation chapter 20. So write down, devil is Esau and his government.
That was Esau.
Mm-hmm. It's going to get confusing in a second, and we're going to see why as we read on. Not confusing to us that know the truth, but to many scholars, they're going to stumble over this next part. It says in Revelation chapter 20 and verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up. So then he fell from his power and rule in Europe. But then what? Within Europe, he was brought down low, right? Forced into many cases the caves, right? One popular mountain range he was forced into was the Caucasus, right? Or the Caucasus Mountains that are found in what? South Georgia, Russia. That's why they've even taken on that name of Caucasian, right? Whereas they have an older mountain that they're associated with in the Bible, Mount Seir.
That's the mountain of Europe.
Right, that's found in what we now call Eastern Europe today. The mountain range of the Caucasus Mountains. So they were brought down low. That's what it's talking about when it says, cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and put a seal upon him, right? It says that he should deceive the nations no more, because that's what he did when he pushed forth his Greco-Roman lifestyle, culture, mentality, when he still had power as the Romans. Then it says, till 1,000 years should be fulfilled. Once again, going into the Dark Ages when they were out of power, and we actually took power. Like I said, this is history, it's documented, but a lot of people believe pictures and movies, right? They see these same figures, like the Kingdom of Heaven, or they watch Braveheart, or they watch shows like Vikings and things like that, and they think that, oh, these are all so-called white people, right? Because they recast the people of color as them, just like they do with the movies, right? Got so-called white people playing the role of our people, so people see the picture and they think, oh, that's what they look like, right? The natives of these different European countries. But no, it was actually us during that time. You go back even further, it was actually Japheth that was there, another dark-skinned nation, not chosen, but they actually populated Europe before even we were there during those times. So like I said, a lot of the history we learned is true, but it's just the paintings and the pictures and the movies make it really confusing. So it's the actual figures were there, the kings and queens were actually there. They just didn't look like the paintings that we see most of the time.
Names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Say what?
Names have been changed to protect the innocent.
No, names haven't changed. That's what I'm saying. Just the image of the people, they make it look white.
You can see that. You would say that with names will change, be changed, protect the innocent, when you fall on that line.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm saying innocent people is us. But they changed.
Well, we weren't innocent.
Movies and everything in that, right?
We weren't innocent. We weren't keeping the commandments. That's why we fell out of power during the Dark Ages. We had power, we lost it because we weren't following the righteous thing. We were mixing our stuff with the stuff of the heathen, right? All during that time. So this prophecy had to come to pass, though. It says, okay.
No, go ahead.
It says, so the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, referring to the Dark Ages. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. So that little season from 1452 up until now the Renaissance has come into play. Now they've come back into power in these different European countries like England, France, Germany, right? Portugal, Spain, etc., everywhere else. Those same 7 heads and 10 horns have now come into power, right? Dominated by their nationality.
They're in power now, right?
Right. And when you compare it to other governments or other empires of other nations who've had, many successful, many succeeding dynasties, it's definitely a short season because it's only been, a couple hundred years. They've done a whole lot, but it's been, relatively speaking, a very short period of time. That's what it means when it says they shall be loosed a little season. So from that time up until now, this is that little season that they've been loosed. I see a couple hands. I'm not sure who was first. I think Kaham Paquad and then Kanyal Kana. From the time of 1452 up until now, when Esau came back into power in Europe and also in America, this is that short season. We're still in that short season. Like I said, this is talking about history. Most of the scholars think this is talking about something that happened in the heavenly realm between the angels fighting back and forth, and that's a lie, right? That's confusion. That's mythology. That's not what this is talking about.
Important to make connection between Satan himself and also Esau, because we could say Satan is the head and Esau is the army. It's the armies of Satan. It's the army of Satan that is being used to fulfill the history of 1,000 years. Because this is who we can identify with as being the devil, but at the same time, Satan is restrained for that time, and Esau was restrained for that time because Esau is Satan's army. So, as we saw, as Kahan is explaining, all the history that's passing that we see being fulfilled by Esau, but the head of Esau is Satan, the spirit. Right now, it's Satan. It's Satan, the spiritual Satan, and you have the physical devil here on earth that's fulfilling, right? That's fulfilling Satan's plot. That is ultimately the Most High's purpose that he's fulfilling. But it's important to make the connection.
Come. And just as devilish as they are, we should be angels in the flesh. Just like you have the spiritual angels, we should represent the angels in the flesh as Israelites, right? Like I tell you in other scriptures. When they should see us, they should look at us and say, wow, it's like I'm looking at the Most High. It's like I'm looking at Christ when they see Israelites. That's how it'll be in the kingdom. It's beginning already now, right? People come to the camp, and they have, we look a certain way to ourselves. When they see us, they're like, wow, it's like you guys are so tall, right? But you guys are 5 or 6, 9 or 10 feet tall when they see us. And it's just like, we're just regular men. But the Spirit, when it comes on us, will look differently to the crowd oftentimes when they see us. Right? That's the beginning of the Spirit working with us to really have us come into the trueness of our form, how we're supposed to be in the earth, as the Most High's example. Right? Like it tells you in Zechariah, it says how what? The feeble of them in that day shall be as David, and how the house of David in that day shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. Right? That begins now. As we learn the truth and begin to take on the commandments, we become those angels, those messengers for real. But sadly, many of our people are reading the wrong lines for the wrong role, right? Trying to be everybody else, whereas everyone else is doing what they're supposed to do except us. But that remnant's coming back slowly but surely.
So you hard-headed, that's why.
Yeah.
Hard-headed and rebellious.
Exactly. So now, Revelation chapter 20, in verse 4, it says, and I saw the thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given upon them, and I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus, or in the Hebrew, Yahushua, and for the word of God, in which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their forehead or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So now this is another vision, but it's going into what? 2 different time periods of 1,000 years. But now this, verse 4, oh, before I even go on, I'm so sorry. You had a comment for verse 3.
Yeah, and they were talking about the dark ages and the change, all that. Malachi 1 and 3 and 4.
Okay.
So this links with 20 and 3.
just want to read Malachi 3 and 4. And I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness, the Caucasus Mountains. Whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places for opposed. They shall build, but I will throw down. Call them the border of wickedness and the people against whom the Lord had indignation forever. So that's we're dealing with the Caucasus Mountains and how they're coming. They're gonna build back the desolate places. They're gonna whitewash history. They take it. They take over Japan. Oh, they take over us and start to whitewash history.
Come. You're right when you said Jaffa, because they took a lot of Jaffa's land too when they expanded, right?
Malachi 1.
That was Malachi 1, verses 3 to 4, to link with verses 20. Esau coming back after falling down during the Dark Ages. Who here they're called the devil and Satan and the old serpent. Another verse, I wasn't going to pull it, but I guess we'll pull it to link with 2 and 3 as well. You can write down Job chapter 30. It looks like Job chapter 30. You can write verse 5 and verse 8. So Job chapter 30, 5 to 9, and I'll read it briefly, then we'll continue on. Just another prophecy describing come. Job chapter 30, verse 5, it says, they were driven forth among men. They cried after them as after a thief, right? So they were driven from among men, right? Brought down from their lofty ivory towers in Rome. It says to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in the caves of the earth, and in the rocks, mainly in the Caucasus during this time period, right? Even though we know that they will be found in the mountains anyway, per the prophecy. And their original mountain being Seir, which they're going to go back to before they're destroyed. Verse 7, among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. So the real caveman, that's their story. They try to put that on all civilization, but no, that was their story, but more recently than most would think. Hunter-gatherers, right? It says, among the bushes they brayed, under the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, children of base. They were viler than the earth. See that? So you look at their MO, since they've been in the earth, whether they were in power or not, they're fools. They're base men as far as the things they uphold and say, yeah, it's right, or it's the right way to be. So Job chapter 30, verse 5 down to 8. So let's go back to Revelation now.
Down to 8 or down to 9?
What's that?
You said you did 8 or you did up to 9?
I just only did up to 8. So Revelation chapter 20, I'll read 4 again. And I saw the thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given to them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh Shai, and for the word of Yahweh, or Elohim, which is his power, Yahweh being the Most High's name, in which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither received his mark on their foreheads or in their hands, right? So as we went into in the past Revelation services, those who didn't take the mark of the beast, talking about what? Them that weren't what? In the world, found the ways of the world, who were dealing with that spirit of Antichrist, right? Those who weren't dealing with wickedness. Because certain camps want to say, oh, this is talking about something physical. It's talking about, you know, a chip they're going to put in your hand or your head. But no, you read the scriptures, it's not talking about that, right? Do that. They try to do a lot of things. They try to say the Antichrist is somebody. When in the scriptures is actually a spirit. So many things they'll take out of scriptures and try to do their own thing with it. But we know what the word is talking about when it says the mark of the beast or the image, right? And we can speak on the image, right? We see that image, a lot of us have seen that image growing up. That picture being of what? Caesar Borgia, right? The so-called white man in his authority. That's what's shined forth the strongest in these times. But they even did that back in Rome. They made their own Caesars into gods, right? You go into their history, they would require that in everyone's house, you would have two different gods or idols, right? One they called this is like from the times of the empire going forward. Not so much during the Republic, but definitely during the times of the Roman Empire, which is a little bit later. They will require what they call the Magna Mater, which is the Great Mother, right? This goddess, the bust of a goddess. And then the other bust they will require was what? One of Caesar. People would be required to put that in their house, right? Have it somewhere in the house, right? Because Magna Mater, or just means Great Mother in Latin. So he was supposed to be looked upon as if he was a god on earth, the Caesar. It shouldn't be a shock to us to know the truth, because anytime we go through Maccabees, we see the Greeks that came before them, Esau, they were very fond of worshiping themselves too, fancying themselves as gods on earth. Like I said, the picture of Caesar Borgia is definitely one of their more famous ones that is definitely taking root in our people's minds, along with the other dark nations. Believe that lie. And it's funny because you got their own people rebelling against the false Christ, saying, yeah, the hell with Jesus, the hell with even the lie was set up about him. They didn't want to get with that, so wait till they see the real Christ. So yeah, the mark we're supposed to have, like we read in Deuteronomy chapter 6, is supposed to be righteousness here and here. Because the here represents how you think. Here represents what you do, right? They say, did you have a hand in this? Did you have a hand in making this happen, right? That's the mark that we're supposed to have, not this mark here. So if you want with verse 4, I'll read it real quick. This is like a reversal of the mark of the beast. To link with 24, let's go back to what we were told from the beginning. When we first came out of Egypt as a nation. Deuteronomy chapter 6. Deuteronomy chapter 6. I'll start from 5. Right after, this is right after the prayer that we do. They call it the Israelite Credo. Hear, Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. 6. So Deuteronomy chapter 6 will start from 5. I'll read down a couple verses so we know what we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. So Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5. Come be quiet. You can read that, Baba Prashad. Verse 5 it should sound familiar, right? If we're familiar with the teachings of Christ.
Deuteronomy 6 and 5. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might.
See that? What was Christ asked, right? When they said, Christ, what's the greatest commandment of all, right? And Christ, he quoted this law right here. This is a law in and of itself. See that? You should love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all thy might. Right? And of course, this love, what it's talking about, is not just saying it with your mouth, but showing it forth in deed, showing forth that obedience, right? That's how you do it for yourself. Read on in verse 6.
And these words, which I command thee this day, shall be in thine heart.
Right, so you know the heart and the mind are one and the same. The Hebrew word is lab, which just means heart. It also means mind. Right? That's why you read scriptures about the heart having thoughts. Right? It's not so much the organ in the body, right? It's referring to our mind. And these words which I commanded this day, they shall be in thine heart. So these commandments supposed to always be in our mind, right? Read on.
And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up.
Right. So these commandments are supposed to be what? You're supposed to discuss these things with your children all the time, right? Until it becomes like second nature, right? Where you just know it and you just demonstrate it. You should talk of them when you sit in thine house, right? When you're at home, doing domestic things, right? It says, when thou walkest by the way, so you go outside, you're supposed to be talking and doing these things. And when thou liest down and when thou risest up, right? So when you get up in the morning, when you go down to sleep, the commandment should be there, right? Check out verse 8, though. Here's the key.
And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes.
Here's how we know what the mark of the beast is talking about, that it's dealing with something spiritual, because now we're reading about what you could call the mark of life. The commandments are supposed to be on our forehead and in our hand, right? That's why it says, bind them for a sign upon a hand, and they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes, right? So what's between your eyes? Your mind, your brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's on your hand? Your hand represents, like we were saying before, what you do. The Most High delivering us with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm. Took action out of Egypt, right? So this is the mark that we're supposed to have in our forehead and in our hands. But when we're of the world, following a lifestyle, culture, mentality of America and the other European countries that are part of Esau's government, your forehead or your hand, meaning what? You're thinking wickedness and you're doing wickedness. It's just that simple. We joke about this whole microchip business. We say, who needs that? They already got that right here. They already got it going on right here. Right? As far as the tracking devices, trying to figure out your whereabouts, they keep trying to perfect that because they want to be like the Most High, right? They want to try to keep account of children in the earth, right? To see their whereabouts, to track their behavior, their activity.
That's why you got that census.
Like the Most High, like Isaiah 14 says about that.
We got that census. They go to well, we give it to you every year. Come to you in your house to have the record of everything.
They realize, yeah, this isn't accurate enough because even with that, they can't get everybody.
No, I know.
But they can get everybody to give over themselves through social media. They got sophisticated and said, let's use social media, make it trending. Let's have them, give over their own dossier. They'll do the work for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have now. People posting every single thing on social media now, all their personal business. They said, because us coming after them and saying we want your info, people definitely would respond to that defensively, right? They said, okay, let's do a more indirect approach, and they've had tremendous success.
So like in Puerto Rico now, it's all that light, they have no light or anything like that. So all their system is down, so they can't. So they kind of lost track of a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
There used to be people outside getting from their computers and their cell phones and just going out there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they lost. How do we get track of everybody down there now? They lost all of that.
Okay.
And also, just so we don't get paranoid, the government is not like watching everybody that's watching everything. If you become a threat and they need your information, they know where to go. It's not like 24/7 they watching you. You know, they have a device that's tracking you every single second. There is an issue and they see you as a suspect, they know where to go. They can go to Facebook and petition Facebook to release some information. They can go to Apple, which is a company that you have a cell phone with. They can, go to a judge and ask the judge to give them, access to your information. Then they go and depending on Apple's agreement with the law, then they will go and get your information. It's not like they sit somewhere and watching your information.
Only if you're a threat.
If you're a threat, they need your information. They know where to go and get it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they sit around and watching everything you do. Teams that have businesses and you give your data, they know where to go. Your credit card information, they would have to go to the credit card company and get some paperwork, and so they can release your information.
Right. That's what their data centers are for. Keep it all on file, right? Wherever they can track, who do use it. Try to make it as trendy as possible so that more people use it. Because everyone's not going to use social media, just like now.
Right.
But they're trying to get more and more, as they call them, second and third world countries on board with the mobile phones and using the apps so they can build more profiles and databases and create AI to do that work for them a lot of times.
Right.
Like you said, unless you are doing something that's totally against the agenda of what they want, or you have a lot of followers and you're putting out certain messages or ideas that they don't like, that's when they'll put those things into practice. But in the meantime, they just gather the data, gather more data. But still not on the level of the Most High in Christ, because who can record thoughts at night? Who can record thoughts while you sleep? They may try to, but that's what's going on in the heavenly realm.
Mm-hmm.
The real big brother. They'll never be on that level, even though they may try. Right?
Right. At the same time.
Yeah, I don't want to make a big thing out of this, but yeah.
At the same time, we have Satan, and it's not to take Satan as Moses' equal, right? And Moses' opponent. So Satan is not Moses' equal, nor his competitor, nor his opponent. Satan is doing the Most High because it's fulfilling the Most High's purpose.
Right. Let it happen.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Let's read on. So it says, I'll read the second half of verse 4 again. As we discussed, this mark of the beast, the image, the mark on the foreheads and the hands, it's talking about something spiritual, right?
Okay.
And talking about them trying to depict themselves as the Most High when it says his image. But like I said, we went into that in past Sabbath services. It says, whoever just dialed in, please do a star 6 to unmute your line. We hear some background noise coming in. Whoever just dialed in, please do star 6 to mute your line. Your voice is coming in unless you have a question. All right. So back to Revelation chapter 20. It says, halfway down through verse 4, and for the word of God, in which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands. Like I said, this isn't going into the technology at all. It's talking about, once again, you found the lifestyle, culture, and mentality of America and the West at large, right? The Western bloc countries. The other European countries that are allied with America. It says, and they lived and reigned with Christ once again, this is going to a future prophecy, something that hasn't happened yet. This won't begin until Christ makes the second coming, right? Which we don't know when that day is or when it will be.
It's a truth after the future.
It's just talking about the 2,000-year periods together. It's talking about 1,000-year period for Esau at one point, the time when we will reign. But a lot of folks, as they read this, they read it as if it's chronological and say, oh yeah, there's going to come a time when Satan, after he loses, thinking of spiritual Satan, right? Once he loses, he's going to come back into power and be loose for a little season. So we're at the war with Satan one more time in the kingdom. Like I said, that's a big stumbling block. This is going into the past, and it's not talking about, it's talking about the physical arm of Satan, a nation of people, Esau. Right. Before with Isaiah 14, right, where it says, from heaven, that heaven talking about rulership of Lucifer, brightness, the son of the dawn. How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? Once again, talking about a nation of people. There's a popular name that they even go by as far as the elites. They call themselves the Illuminati, right? They go by many different names. We know that's one that's stuck. You know, information about them, some of them is useful, some of it not, right? Because that's one technique that Esau uses. Anytime truth is exposed about what he has going on, he can't get rid of the original information. He has to create information around it, all different types of propaganda around the event, so that people sit back and go, we don't know what happened. One people says this, other people says that. We don't know what happened.
That was the truth.
Right. So that's one of the techniques he uses to try to cover his tracks. But yet and still, what actually happened is still there, and it's still recorded. And the Most High, we know he ultimately knows the truth. Be wise as we check this information out and talk about it, we can prove for sure. And then things that we know we can't prove for certain based on scripture, okay, this very well could have happened. We want to make sure we stand by the scriptures through and through with anything we talk about that comes from a different source. That way we can be justified in our sayings to overcome when we're judged. Then we can partake in this salvation here and reign with Christ 1,000 years. So yeah, they're the ones that call themselves the bright ones. But the Most High called them that first because he knew their spirit and how they would be lifted up by their knowledge, right? Like I said, that's another lesson. We went into that before, but it correlates to what we're reading now. So it says they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So going to a future time in the kingdom when we reign 1,000 years with Christ. Forever, time when Christ is going to reign with us for 1,000 years. What happens to that 1,000 years? We know we'll still reign. As far as what Christ will do at that point, you know, it's up in the air. We're just not sure. Verse 5, it says, lived not again until 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Because remember, the elect of God are going to be called up to meet with the Lord in the air, right? We're going to be changed. Whoever those of us of Israel that are elect we're going to be called into the chariots to meet with the Lord in the air. Like it tells us Thessalonians, like it tells us in Corinthians, right? Now, 2/3 of people have to die, right? Because they're not going to follow righteousness. They're going to take that mark of the beast along with the heathen. So they have to come back through the children of the 1/3. That's what it's talking about here when it says they live not again until 1,000 years were finished. So going into them what? Coming back into the earth through the children of the 1/3 that do make it into the kingdom. It's time for all those souls to come back into the earth. Israel shall be saved, the scriptures say, but it's all but matter of you go into the kingdom with highest honors as the 1/3. As Christ said, as the least of the kingdom who wanted to teach people now, don't worry about those commandments. It's all a matter of how you go in. Go in with honor and dignity or go in as one that rebelled or that didn't obey. right? So with verse 5, just some verse you can link to kind of put all this together as far as the things that I'm saying. As far as Israel reigning forever, in fact, you can write down Daniel. Yeah, Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 18. And Kanyal Khan, you can read that real quick. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 18.
Daniel 7 and 18. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever.
Khan, and I might read a couple verses, sorry. We're going to rule the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. So I don't think when it says 1,000 years, that once 1,000 years are up, we won't rule anymore, right? Just let us know that Christ will reign with us for 1,000 years. What happens after that, we know we'll still rule, but it's just not said. You could also link, when I talk about the 1/3 being saved, we talk about it all the time, but in case we don't know, and in case we need to show it to a brother or sister, Zechariah chapter 13. Zechariah chapter 13, verse 8, and also verse 9. You can read that too.
Zechariah, that's Zechariah.
Yeah, it ends like that. Zech.
Zechariah 1.
13, verse 8 and verse 9.
Zechariah 13, verse 8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, said the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die.
It says 2/3 of Israel being cut off and dying, right? Because they're going to take on the mark of the beast in his image. Read on.
But the third shall be left therein.
Right. The third is going into the remnant, which we all hope to be a part of when Christ comes back. Read on.
And I will bring the third part through the fire, and refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Lord is my God.
Let me get another one in Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. 1 Corinthians chapter 3. 1 Corinthians 3. We'll start from 9, and then we'll read down to 15. There's other verses we read in other classes, but I just want to get key verses we can go to show what we're reading right now. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, 9 to 15. You can
For
read
we
that.
are laborers together with God. Yea, are God's husbandry. Ye are God's building.
Right, so metaphorically, Paul calls us God's husbandry, right? Like this vineyard. Ye are God's building, right? We're the building that the Most High made. We make buildings, but really the people are the building. We're going to see that again as we read on in today's service, that same idea. Read on in 10.
According to the grace of God, which is given unto me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and another buildeth thereon. But let every man take heed how he buildeth thereon. Thereupon.
Right. So Paul trying to separate himself from the worship of the people, saying, don't worship me, worship God, right? Yeah, I may have been there first to start things. And then Apollos, he helped to grow the church when I left. But remember that what? Jesus Christ, he's the one that we go through, right? Through the Most High. That's what he's going to say in verse 11. So he may have started the church, and then other brothers like Apollos, right, who was famous at that time for righteousness, he built upon. Take heed on how he built thereupon, right? You're going to set forth righteousness. You're going to set forth wickedness when it comes to establishing the church of God. Read 1 and 11.
For other foundation can no man lay than that is laid, which is Jesus Christ.
Right. So Paul gives Yahushua Mashiach all the credit for all the work that he's done, right, and founding the church. He based it on what he learned from Christ. He wants to make sure that the church in Corinth does the same thing. They don't make too much out of any man, which is the same warning that our churches now that have gotten big need to take heed to, and don't make too much of their leaders, right? To acknowledge that, yes, the Most High is using them to guide the people because of the righteous example that they set. Not, oh yeah, I'm under this man, or I'm under this person, right? This personality. Because then you fall into the realm of the heathen now. They do that. Read on.
Verse 12. Now if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble.
Right. If any man lay upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, right? So some of the materials are more sturdy, right? More long-lasting. Some of these materials aren't so strong, right? Like wood isn't as strong. Hay definitely, and definitely not stubble, right? You're thinking about that nursery rhyme we learned, the three little pigs and the wolf, right? You had the first two pigs that built their house out of straw, right, and sticks. Right. Then the third little pig built his house out of brick, right? Right. And the wolf couldn't blow that one down. He could blow the other ones down, right? So, it's a carnal example, but we see that image in the scriptures when it comes to laying a foundation, a sturdy foundation like we see here. Even a parable that Christ gave about building a house upon a rock versus building it upon sand. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you build a house upon sand, that's not wise. That's not prudent when the weather comes. Right. But a person builds a house upon a rock, weather can come, it'll still stand. Right. So we have to make sure that our foundation is sturdy in Christ. We make sure we establish the fruits of the Spirit in our hearts. Things be the guides to guide us in the commandments as we keep them. Way when a storm or wind comes, meaning what? Some kind of, we won't be swept back into the world like a house built on sand.
Yeah, we see some of that happening now with all the hurricane going on.
Kind of literally. Mm-hmm. Houses built on fault lines, right? Or not really heavily rooted as far as their foundation. Mm-hmm. Read 13.
Every man's work shall be made manifest. They shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire, and the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is.
Right, so the fire is going to reveal any man's work, what materials he used, how well he used those materials in his tools to build upon the foundation. It shall be revealed by fire, right? Just like we read about in Zechariah 13, right? They shall be tried as silver is refined, as silver is refined, tried as gold is tried. Yeah, read 14.
If any man's work abide which upon, he shall receive a reward.
Right, so we put forth righteous works upon that foundation, which is Christ. Abide even after the fire and flames hit it. right? Think of this spiritually now as far as what we put in to set up the church and set the people up in the church, building up righteous men and women according to truth. He shall receive reward. But check out 15.
If any man's work shall be burnt, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire.
Right, so going into how all Israel is going to be saved, but it's a matter of, are you going to go in with the 1/3, those who didn't receive that mark? Because those that receive the mark of the beast in his image, they're going to be what this verse 15 talks about. Their work shall be burnt up.
They should be burned.
Right. But it says they'll be saved yet so as by fire. So the question is, what kind of fire do we want to face? We want to face the furnace or fire of adversity, right? Always what we go through now. We try to do righteousness when family and friends, and we get tested by family and friends or by our possessions being lost, right? Or even being tested in our own body as far as overcoming illness. These are how we're being tested right now through the fire. But now we overcome this here, being those few that walk in righteousness, will receive that reward. But then for the rest of our people, they're going to have to what? Be destroyed or burned. But like we read in Revelation, they'll come back through the children of those that go in, that receive the reward. So we have to make that choice every day until Christ comes back. Are we going to choose in our path of Christ, or be like so many others that lead to destruction? Go that way.
I just want to read Isaiah 65 and 20.
Okay.
Looking up.
Same thing what he's talking about right now.
Isaiah what?
65 and 20. 65 and 20. 65 and 20.
So that's a side note. It's not linking up with any scripture in Revelation.
Here's looking at what he's talking about. Let me read it quick. There shall, Isaiah 65 and 20, there shall be no more hence an infant of days, nor an old man that had not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed.
Now, you say 60 or
6, 5.
Okay, so how are you connecting that?
So, like what you said before, come on. You're gonna go within the 1/3, or you're going in the 2/3. Because like now we say somebody a couple years old, they say, oh, that was just a child,
Mm-hmm.
So back in Genesis, how men lived for all these years, 800, 900, all these years that they lived. So the person dies 100 years old, and that's going to be 100. Wow, people are going to say, wow, that's just a child,
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to fulfill our days.
Okay.
But the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed. So when you want to go back into the in the kingdom within the 1/3, living out your years like back in Genesis, you just live a short life.
Okay, let me get you to read one more for verse 5. Romans chapter 11 and verse 26. And there's others, but I just want to read these key ones, and I have you reading a lot. Romans chapter 11 and verse 26. Just so that God can be true, every man a liar, myself included. I want to show forth that the Most High is saying these things. Still with verse 5. Just like the other ones.
Romans 11:26. And so all Israel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob.
Right. So remember, all Israel shall be saved, like Corinthians went into. How are you saved? You saved by spiritual fire that comes through what? Walking in the truth now, walking in a straight and narrow path, overcoming doctrines, afflictions, lusts. Or do you face the physical fire that comes when Christ makes his second coming. So choose one fire or the other, right? But you got to get purified either now or later, right? And we're all gonna choose before it's all said and done. The hope is that for all of us that are called into this truth now, it's every day that we Most High bless us to wake up to do right. Because next week I could choose, yeah, you know what? This truth, man, it's getting in the way of what I want, right? I want to do my thing. I'm tired of serving the Lord. I want to serve myself. I could choose that next week, and that could be all you wrote, all she wrote, all he wrote for Navi's rubber ball.
And once they get you, they're gonna grab you. They're gonna hold you.
You go back in the world.
When you go back in the world, it's gonna grab you.
And it's harder to go back into the truth after knowing the truth and going back into the world. That's what Peter tells us in his letter.
When you get you, it's gonna grab you.
You can come back though after going back into the world. The idea is to never go back in the world to begin with.
Right.
Just once you learn the truth, to learn the truth, hearken unto it, and stay in it, right? With all your heart, your soul, and your mind, do your best to stay in that word. That's what's best to do. So that's what we want. But like I said, like the scriptures say, we're all going to be tried by fire. Once again, the spiritual fire now through overcoming temptations, right? Overcoming wickedness. Few and humble in righteousness that stay that straight and narrow path. Facing the fire when Christ makes the second coming. Structuring a fire with the angels. We'll read more about that as we go on. But we're reading about here, Revelation 20:5, when it says, the rest of the dead live not again until 1,000 years were finished. That's talking about the 1/3, the 2/3 that don't make it, then coming back through the children of the 1/3 that go in. Right? It's going to take through that 1,000-year period, they're going to come back into the earth through the, like I said, the children of the 1/3 that make it into the kingdom.
One more quickly. Ezekiel 39:7. So will I make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them pollute my holy name anymore, and the heathen shall know that I am the Lord, the Holy One in Israel. 39:7.
Okay, good stuff. Look forward to those days, right? Being out of this body, right? Being in a righteous, holy body, which is only earned through having a righteous, holy mind right now. So let's continue on in verse 6. But like what I'll do is before we go on, I'll just call up all the links again for verse 5, and then we'll continue. 18, Zechariah 13, eight to 9, chapter 3, verse Romans chapter 11, 26. And then we also read Isaiah 65 and 20. Once again, Isaiah 20 and Ezekiel 39 and 7. Once again, Ezekiel 39. Let's continue on in verse 6. Revelation chapter 20 and verse 6. Holy is to have part in resurrection. Be part of that 1/3 that's delivered. We don't have to get into the kingdom the hard way. On such the child, we're going to read about the second death as you read on, right? With the 2/3 of Israel and the nations will face who don't want to hearken unto truth. But they God and of Christ, right? So we're going to be a nation of priests, like we read before in other scriptures, right? And shall reign with him 1,000 years. So same thing we just read before about them reigning with Christ for 1,000 years. As far as that is within the 1/3, Revelation 5 and verse 10. Revelation 5 and 10 you can link with 20 and 6.
Revelation 5:10.
Yeah, chapter 5, verse 10. Revelation chapter 5 and verse 10 reads, us unto our power, kings and priests on the earth. So now in this verse is going to how with Christ. Once again, after 1,000 years reigning with Christ in the future, that doesn't mean that, oh, after that time is up, what it says we'll reign with Christ 1,000 years. But as far as reigning after that, we know we're going to reign forever. So you remember, you have to take precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little, and weigh the scriptures into balance, right? Weigh them all together to get the full picture. Puzzle pieces, right? When you do a puzzle, you got to put the pieces together.
Right.
Each piece, as you formulate the picture, plays a part in making what that full picture, what the puzzle represents. But before you do that, you might see, okay, if it's like a person, you may say, okay, oh, these pieces are for the feet. These pieces are for the midsection. Okay, this piece is for the head. You might put together little parts of the puzzle, and you may work on the edges afterwards, whatever strategy you have. We're on verse 7 now. Revelations 5 and 10, Revelations 20 and 6.
Revelation 7.
Something that's, you know that the 1,000 years for those who are gonna be born again in the kingdom, where would those people be find? Where would them stop looking before they found them be in the kingdom?
Oh, well, where anyone else goes when they die. Back to the Most High. Just like Ecclesiastes 12 and 7, though.
You go back to the spirit world and get defined.
Mm-hmm.
Come back again.
Right. Because what we read about is going into how the 1/3 are going to be delivered, as far as called together with the Lord and meeting at 2/3.
Right.
That process is going back to and come back to the children of the 1/3. Then it'll be known for them, okay, who they are, who they were in all their past lifetimes, et cetera, and so forth. You know, whatever tribe they came out of.
So they would be in the spirit world, being confined when they come back in.
Remember, Israel's not going to be able to sin in the kingdom.
Right.
Get that blessing, the laws will be written on the inward parts. When the children come of our people, they're going to have that same blessing. They'll just have to face the actual fire to get to it.
Satan being bound for Satan being bound for 1,000, it was not for punishment. Right? It was not like for the time when they were ruling, and after that they bound for 1,000 years. So the bounding was more like a restraining also. You know, that's how you don't follow. Like when we read in beginning of Revelation how Satan was bound for 1,000 years.
Right.
Bound for 1,000 years, bound. It was not for correction. We did not have the mark. They're gonna go in the kingdom for that. They're gonna go back. We born in the kingdom in the period of 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Satan being bound for 1,000 years is not the same. It's not the same case. Satan being bound, as I understand it, Satan being bound is more like a restraining of its influences, of Satan influence for 1,000 years, as opposed. I mean, Satan, and we know, so being bound for 1,000 years, not in rulership,
Right.
right? Case as is our 1,000 years here, and our people being confined in the spirit world to come back. That's what I'm saying.
The same, but I would look at it as both. For the case of Esau, yes, I see it as judgment along with being bound for a purpose, because the other heathen kingdoms that had us in captivity, the kingdoms, and that was part of their punishment. The punishment to look forward to when Christ makes the second coming. So I would see it as judgment upon Esau, along with him being given a chance to reign for that short season, which is what we've seen, from the end of the Dark Ages up until now. I look at it as both, because the other heathen nations, because of sins they committed before, when they were in power, and what they've done to us, having us captive already on a certain level, but they haven't gotten the full-fledged judgment yet, which will come when Christ comes back. You know what I mean? To answer your question, I would say both. We know Esau has a lot more to look forward to in the kingdom, but he's already seen through his. So this is Revelation chapter 20 and verse 7. And going back to what verse 3 was talking about, 20 and verse 7, this is going to jump back to the time period of Esau coming out of the Caucasus and the Caucasus Mountains, and him being in a lower state throughout, when our people had the preeminence of dominance from the time of 1452 leading up until now, right? When the capital of the Byzantine Empire, Constantinople, fell, and then that capital was changed from Constantinople to Istanbul. A family of Esau, right? Which would then lead to other families of Esau taking root and becoming prominent again throughout Europe. And then we just discussed earlier in the service, whitewashing all the kings that came before that, looked like us, trying to cover up the history of us reigning in Europe, along with, of course, us in the Bible, putting their face on top of our face. It says, when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. So from 1452 up until now, to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather together to battle, the number of whom is as the sands of the sea. So this is how we know it's definitely talking about a past prophecy, because we're still in the midst of this as we speak. To link with 20 and 8, let's go back to Ezekiel. We'll get it in two places. This is talking about the prophecy of what? Which are Japhetic nations originally. This is talking about another branch of Esau that will rule in the eastern parts of Europe and what we now call Asia, right? Going into who we now call the Russians. Because now we even see on the news, different tensions now rising between Russia and America, indirectly mostly, but in many cases now even directly, as far as them tampering with the elections here in the United States, as far as to use their relationship with China as a buffer, right, to keep doing what they're doing because it serves a purpose for them. try to stop North Korea and appear as the aggressor, and they can come in as the hero and say, oh, hold on now, you know, violence isn't the answer, violence isn't the way. So all these proxy wars in Asia now, where it's United States and Russia are the main players, but then you have others now are being called into, they're being called on who alliance do they have? Do they have alliance with the West, America and her allies, or do they have alliance with the East, Russia and her allies, right? So they're kind of put between a rock and a hard place, so to speak. All is leading up to that final battle, which is going to be Esau against Esau, Gog Magog, what we now call Russia. America, Babylon versus Russia, Gog Magog. And all the allies that they have on both sides. Today they're called the Eastern and Western Bloc countries. But first, Ezekiel chapter 38. So once again, this is not future prophecy now. We're going back into history and now current events that this prophecy is talking about here. So Ezekiel 38 chapter.
Ezekiel what?
38. We won't read the whole thing, but we'll just read key ones. Ezekiel 38, verse 1. We'll read 1 down to 7. Mm-hmm. So once again, Ezekiel 38, 1 to 7. And Khan Samak, you can read that, Baba Rashad, once everybody has it. Once again, this is linking with Revelation chapter 20 and verse 8.
Ezekiel 38:1. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him.
So now the prophecy is going against, I read about Revelations 20 and 8, the same figure. You look on the old maps of where Noah's 3 sons went, you find Japheth went up into Europe, Eastern and Western Europe. But he spread out into Eastern Europe, which now is called Russia, because the Most High knows that's the land that he intended for them to be in, and that's the land they're going to go back to in the kingdom anyway. But it has to use that reference so that when we read, we know, okay, what region he's talking about. He's really talking about Esau. Because just like they're called Gog Magog, look at Esau in the West. The Bible calls them Babylon the Great, because why? Look at the lifestyle culture they uphold. The same practices of the Babylonians or the Cushites when they had power, right? Cushites being who we now call Ethiopians, and all the idols that they dealt with, America embracing those same things. Now remember, they're no people. The scriptures talk about in moving us to jealousy with them which are not a people. Conquer a land, they oftentimes take over the customs and the ways of those they conquer, and then it becomes a part of them. Even their Greco-Roman style, a lot of the stuff that they do, they adopted it from Hamite nations that surrounded them, like the Egyptians and Ethiopians, right? Once again, they're called Gog Magog. But once again, this is talking about not the original Japhethites that were there after the flood, but going into Esau that would populate that region in the last time. it says the prince of Meshach and Tubal, right? Referring to their two chief cities, Moscow and Tabasco. This is going into their older names, their older spelling of their name. So let's read on in verse 3.
Thus saith Yahweh power, behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal.
Right, so what's he going to do now that he's against him? Let's read on in verse 4.
And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine armies, horses and horsemen, with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords.
Right, so I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, right? Because Heavenly Father looks at any nation or any empire as like a beast of burden, right? He rides on top of them because he controls them, right? Like puppets. But now he says, I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, because why? We see what Russia before was a hot war, like in World War II, right? With them. Or where it was more indirect conflict, right? Between using buffer nations or proxy wars, using different nations as fronts, where Russia would militarily fund one side of the battle, and America or Babylon would fund the other side, right? We see Russia now taking a more capitalist approach to things. You know, they've been known to be more of a collectivist. Now they're taking a more capitalist outlook as far as, you know, building up their economy and things outside of their oil, getting into technology, and different things like that. He said, I'm gonna turn you back. I'm gonna turn you back to that warlike nation you were when you were the Soviet Union, and give you a reason to do so, right? Which all these things that happen in the news are all leading back to hot war, no more Cold War anymore between us and Russia. That's what it means when it says, I will turn thee back and bring thee forth. It says, with all thine army, horses and horsemen. Because anytime Russia tells America to get back, America will, acknowledge it. They may not say anything directly, but they won't make moves anymore if they see Russia's involved, because Russia is one of the only countries that outnumbers the United States. I think they're the only country outnumbers the nuclear arsenal. They actually have more than the United States. The United States is second. But it's so funny because you look at that list of who possesses, nuclear warheads or nuclear stockpile. The folks that make the news the most are the ones that actually have the least, right? You look at the bottom of that list. Who's at the very bottom? Iraq, with 0. Remember, they went in there back in the 2000 decade, didn't find any, and they said second to last on that list is North Korea with 3. Now that may have changed since I think that article came out. But it's so funny how the news will make a big stink over the nations that really are the least threatening above all, but the nations that from serious damage. Those are the ones that they'll kind of be very careful with, be very selective as far as negative things they may say about them, or they'll try to downplay their effectiveness. Ironic either that within the United Nations, the UN Security Council, you have 5 permanent members. And those 5 permanent members, you have United States and Russia. They're both on that permanent member list. And the other 3 nations, I think, are China, France, and maybe Great Britain, I think. China's like the only nation, I think, that, well, depending on how you look at it, they could be considered Esau too, if you look at their families. But those 5 nations, they're the only ones that are permanent members of the UN Security Council. It just so happens they're the ones that have the most nuclear warheads. So the UN Security Council is pretty much the guys with the most guns, the guys with the most muscle. They're the ones that can tell anybody else, hey, chill out, relax. They're the ones that can go into the UN General Assembly, which is many more nations, and part of that, and say, anything you guys try to pass, we can veto the thing and say, nah, it's not going to go forward. So much for the UN being a voice for all nations to come together. Basat Mawat?
I heard the news or something about the North Koreans was going to send a missile or something.
Yeah, they already did. They sent it went over Japanese airspace and landed in the water. And then the Japanese made a big thing. They said, we have to stop this now. Like this is considered an act of war, right? What they're doing, right? They can't just fly missiles over our airspace.
Yeah, that's what he did. They shot that missile, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Japanese, they were too pleased with that missile.
Yeah, I don't think most people wouldn't, right? You got somebody shooting missiles over your airspace, and you don't know what the intent is or where it might land, even if it didn't land on a person's land or affect their property. But yet and still, this is a demonstrative of North Korea saying, "Hey, look, we got something. We'll defend ourselves if necessary, even with your embargo."
Is there something they think that the defendant by U.S. and Russia won't get into a nuclear war because something is like, depending on a certain time of year, like they would get the fallout. Like Russia's fires first, they get they would get the fallout. If we fired first, we would get the fallout.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's just confined to a certain time of year. It's going to be a mess whenever whenever that thing kicks off. It don't matter what season it is. But since they have so many, and once the first person shoots, you're going to let out all your stuff. Okay, we'll let out all our stuff. And like I said, just with a fraction of the nukes that they have in total, it could cause a serious mess on the earth. And that's what the Most High is telling us, that he's going to bring them together to fight this final fight. And as they face off, that's when Christ comes back in the midst of that battle and say, all right, here's what's really going on. I'm redeeming my people Israel, and we're taking over from both you guys. Mm-hmm. Through what we just read in Revelation, right? But we're going to read more about that as we read on in chapter 20. Let's continue.
Verse 5. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 5. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them. All of them with shield and helmets.
Now it's going into allies themselves onto the side of Russia. It says Persia. Persia is what we call Iran today, right? Same region. Shouldn't be hard to see, right? Because we see that all the time in the news. They always want to talk about Iran this, Iran that, but they won't just go in there directly because they know that Russia and Iran have a relationship. And attacking Iran is like attacking Russia to a certain extent. Persia, it says Ethiopia. They're going to ally themselves with Russia too, since they've gotten the short end of the stick from the Western countries, even going back to the wars that they had with Italy, which is part of the American ally, and Libya with them. So even Libya's going to ally themselves with Russia before it's all said and done, right? I'm sure they have a bad taste in their mouth after the Abu Ghraib incident, right? Clinton went in there with the white flag. He surrendered, and they blew him up anyway, and then they laughed about it. And you see they had pictures of Libya before when Muammar Gaddafi was in power. Saddam Hussein, let's say these guys are saints. At least they had some kind of stability in the country, some kind of infrastructure. You see, after these guys reigned, the whole place is just in shambles. Muammar Gaddafi, is he really the bad guy that the news labels him? Saddam Hussein, was he really that bad when he was in authority? At least he kept the different factions in check. Now, it's just been chaos. But this is a part of Esau's MO to support one side of a conflict, to even support the other side, and then kind of use control chaos countries in the way he sees fit. But sometimes it can be very costly, and sometimes things happen that he wouldn't foresee that are hard for him to control. Because you can start a fire, it's easy, but to put it out, something else. Esau's learning that the hard way, oftentimes in his pockets. So it says Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. But now check out verse 6.
Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters.
So it says Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah. You go into those Japhites where they live today. They're called France and Germany. This is something we want to keep a close eye on, because France and Germany, they're on the side of the United States, right? They're supposed to be part of the America's allies. But you look at the European Union, some of the turmoil they go through, as far as the trouble that France and Germany are seeing. And they've already got a trade relationship with Russia, right? Even though they may ally themselves with America when it comes to certain conflicts. Expect to see certain things transpire where it's going to leave a bad taste in those two countries' mouths. They're going to say the hell with the United States and end up butting up with Russia instead. Trade incident between Eastern and Western Ukraine, they looked to Angela Merkel, right, Prime Minister Germany head, and said, "We need your help against Ukraine," right? The leaders were kind of like, "The enemy of your enemy isn't necessarily our enemy," you know. They were kind of quiet. They said, "Well, we're not just going to jump on board with you, right? Because we have an ally, Russia. We know Russia supports the Ukraine." So they had a big article in the New York Times a couple of years back. I think it was back in 2016 and 15, going into that, as far as, you know, why America shouldn't be shocked that Germany just doesn't hop on board on America's side when it came to that conflict. Because everybody has friends, right? Everyone's supporting one another through, you know, trade deals and things like that. So let's expect folks to be like, "Oh yeah, let's go over here." Just like with today, kind of make China look bad and saying, "Yeah, China needs to do more to stop North Korea," but North Korea and China have a relationship, a trade relationship, where they support each other through, you know, tough spots. When they had famines on both sides, they would send people over to help support or send aid over on both sides when it came to famine. North Korea more so than China. So all these things come into account when you just ask a country to up and say, "Yeah, distance yourself from your neighbor, North Korea." Not only that, China doesn't want to have the same issue as far as what happened with Syria, where imagine they go inside with America and then they start attacking North Korea. They have all types of North Korean refugees going into China, going into South Korea, which is supposed to be U.S. run, going into Europe, Russia, because they have a small border with Russia too, right? That's going to cause conflicts for their countries. So they're going to make decisions based on their own interests first, right? Then they'll say, "Okay, yeah, now we'll see if we can kind of help out, but we can find some other way to do North Korea. We definitely will." What happened in Syria, where, you know, you went in there and just rocked them, and now Syria, you know, Syrian refugees are going to all these other countries asking for help, and we're like, we can't take these guys on. We got enough trouble with ourselves dealing with our own people, refugees. So these are the, you know, how these decisions are made, and this is how, you know, relationships are broken, and then people switch sides, you know. So as you see all these things happen, it's all going to fulfill what we're reading here, this prophecy as far as Russia rising up, and all the countries are going to be allied with Russia. I think we got some more in that verse, right? Verse 6.
And many people with thee.
And many people with thee, right? So that's here him where we don't in verse 7.
And that's what makes things complicated in a world full of lies. Even those countries, they go and have conferences and try to make peace agreement. It's hard to figure out who's lying and who's telling the truth. That's what makes things complicated. Because in the word of who by Satan, who is a liar, he doesn't come out for you to see that it's a lie, like blatantly you see it's a lie. If it's a lie, so you automatically you reject it, and you have no respect for it. Now he has to have a bunch of layers around layers around layers around layers around layers for you to not figure out if it's a truth or if it's a lie. Deals, you don't know if it's based on truth, if it's based on lies. It's like yours good as mine.
Like you don't know where you find or not.
Yep.
Especially when they deal with each other in those foreign countries like with Russia. Because Russia's like, yeah, we run the same game over here with our allies, so we're already trying to break through whatever you're telling us at the table. You're trying to figure out what your true intention is, you know, and that's the game, right? And I got spies on your side, you got spies on my side, trying to figure out what your true intentions are. What way is that to deal with anybody? That's no way to do business. Like you said, Con, that's what they're forced to do. Well, but then they got their spies on the inside, people that they bought off or that they compromised, just to bring information back to them. Yeah. Well, we're doing in verse 7, and then we'll go back.
Prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them.
Right. So now Most High arming up that side of the conflict. Same with Revelations 20:8 is talking about. So yeah, that's what's going down. But that should be something of interest to watch the France and Germany, like just to keep an eye on the French and German relations with Russia. and just watch them deteriorate, see when certain things happen, and then maybe with wisdom position yourself, so that you can benefit from it, because we're not always going to fall down anyway. But I think for anyone who's who's spiritually minded, who may want to invest, that might be a nice place to look at, right? But those two things, and look at it along the lines of prophecy as far as the Most High's plan, because we know it's going to take place. It's just a matter of time. See, Ezekiel 38, 1-7 to link with Revelations 20 and 8. And chapter 39 is good to read too. That just kind of goes into the battle actually happening and in the aftermath. But we got the idea as far as what Revelations 20 and 8 is talking about. Revelations 20, I'll read 8 again. It says, "And shall go out to deceive the nation which are in the four quarters of the earth." What were you saying, come before? Deceive. Right? They say warfare is deception, right? That's a common saying, Even what was it? The Moab said that with the Sun Tzu, art of war, right? Deception. You have to throw off the trace of whoever you're trying to deal with to make your intent to be one thing, but then to use indirect tactics, right, to gain the advantage. He talks about the divine manipulation of the threats. It's just a fancy word, fancy expression for, right, having eyes and ears on their side, and then trying to find the eyes and ears they have on your side, because you already know. Anybody you have rule over, especially, important officials, if you make them feel a certain way or, discourage them, or they may have been hoping for a certain position, you don't reward them. Know when it comes to your chief enemy in economics, in politics, on this part of another country, someone on that side may try to appeal to their dissatisfaction. Oh, I heard you were, looking to be next in line for prime minister. It didn't happen. We can look out for you over here in our country, as long as you give us information, right? And that might become a spot. They might say, oh, okay, yeah, I'll work with you. Now you got someone on the enemy's side supplying you information, so that okay, they said this when we sat down at the table to do a deal, but now here's what they really want to do.
Then Satan influencing Esau. That's been his business throughout the ages. Deception. That's the business that he's in.
Maccabees. Just read Maccabees. It's all there.
Sleep with it, eat with it, wake up with it, dress with it. And wake up with it. That's their thing. That's their business.
Mm-hmm. Come. And the sooner that Israel can acknowledge that and come to terms with it, enemy, because you've already considered all the different options that they will take, not that they might take, but that they will take. Because when you deal with them, you automatically know, okay, things are working out now because I'm providing a benefit. But now, once things don't work out, I'm not able to supply a product or service them, that they might act funny style. So I need to have certain things in place for when that may happen, because I know what they will do, and not to be totally surprised when they just totally go flip mode, right, and say oh, I can't believe I sat down with you, you're a fool, you're this. They start calling out your name. You're like, what the hell? As long as it's working out, they don't get on time and under budget, right? And then they have stress on top of them, someone over their head. That's when they start dealing with you very differently. They start treating you harshly now. Whereas before, you guys were buddies, friends, right? That's asking about your family, right? Now they want to hang your family out to dry, right? So that they don't take the blame. As opposed to, wow, look at what we are experiencing. How can we solve this together? A lot of times, it's so quick to because you didn't do it. It's that accountability. They don't want to take it. They don't take that accountability. The finger. How easy is it to point it to one of us, right? We barely got our foot in the door. Got family and friends, that work for the competition. They work in HR, right? They can look after them, if they got into a jam, right? We don't have that. We got our people in HR, they got to meet quotas, right? Our people that work in HR, that work at the bank, right? As far as, offering loans, people that may work in business for themselves, they got to meet quotas. They got Esau over their head saying, yeah, you can't just give loans out to anybody. You can't just hire anybody. So we'll tell our own people, hey, I see what I can do, but I can't just have a bunch of us, I need permission because they're not in charge, right? They're just there. I always mention those three areas where they maintain a quo, even though we think that, everything's equal. No. The three areas that they maintain a status quo are what? Admissions for private schools and colleges, hiring for HR for your Fortune 5 and your public sector, and your nonprofit too. Is loan officers at banks, residential and commercial banks, right? They may have our face there, right? They say, oh, look, they're in HR, but if they can control that bottleneck as far as how many so-called blacks or Hispanics get in at those different levels, they can maintain the status quo of they own and then we don't. Yeah, they'll still hire you at their company, but all you're doing is working for them. What can you really come back home with to say is yours? You don't have stock in the company, right? You're not on the board. Even if you are, you're just a figurehead, right? It's not your company. So the ownership disparity is still there, even in 2017. There's no argument against that. That's easy to research. So let's continue on. Revelation chapter 20, verse 9. So Revelation 28 is talking about the battle before it ensues between America and her allies, or Babylon, Russia and her allies, or Gog Magog. And they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about, and fire came down from power out of heaven and devoured them. So we always go into with the prophecy, while they're going to go fight against each other, while that battle is going to kick off in the valley of Jehoshaphat, what we now call Megiddo, right? That city in northern Israel, which that's where the word Armageddon comes from. Armageddon means the valley of Megiddo, right? It's referring to a place, right? That's where the battle's going to ensue. It says that what? The Most High is going to come down and protect the city, well, to overthrow them in it, but then to build up the city, which the city is actually talking about the people, right? They're going to fight in that land, but now as we're reading, they're going to be destroyed as they fight each other and turn their fight and then try to fight with us. Try to fight with Christ and the angels. But then they're going to be destroyed in that effort. To link with verse 9, I read this before, but to link with 20 and 9, let's go to Ezra, second Ezra, in the Apocrypha. Second Ezra, chapter 13. Second Ezra 13, 1, and we're going to read down to 11. We'll read through it swiftly. But just another vision from another prophet, but same event, but just describing the same details along with other details. On precept, line upon line. And come be quiet. You can read this, Baba Shop. Second Ezra 13, start from 1.
Second Ezra 13, verse 1. And it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, and that is the wind from the sea, that is moved all the waves thereof.
So a strong wind moving waves, you know.
And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him.
Strong, of course, is Jesus Christ, or Yahweh Shah Mashiach, when he comes in his glory, in his second coming. And it says the thousands of heaven were with him, or the clouds. We read about before, right? The clouds of the chariots, the holy vehicles, what we now call UFOs, allied with Christ. Remember, Christ, as he told Joshua, he's the captain of the Lord's host. Right? So he commands them all. You know,
Whoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice. Like as the earth felleth when it feeleth the fire.
right. It's just like earth and molten metal melts down when it's burned, right? Whether it be, you know, iron ore or wood or soil, right? Same as his word when it goes out there. So it's going into his word being that thing that judges, right? Just like we're burned now spiritually through that fire that comes from the scriptures, right? As far as being held to the that straight and narrow path of Christ, enduring temptation, furnace of adversity, right? The actual fire is going to come from his judgment. Was going to what? Put many to death in that day. Totally out of it and totally against it. We don't.
And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of the number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the men that came out of the sea.
Same as in Revelation, right? This is the sands of the sea, like I told us in verse 8. It's going to that same group of people, right? That are going to unite themselves against Christ after leaving off and fighting each other. Let's read on and find that out.
Yeah, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it.
Right, so he was standing on this great mountain that he flew up upon. Read verse 7.
But I would have seen the region or place where the hill was graven, and I could not.
Right, think of that like in Daniel, the vision he had about that with man's hands to destroy existed before, and then how he came to exceed a great mountain, right? Presenting his authority now coming on the scene. And Daniel's prophecy too, as it pertained to the end of the heathen's empire and the beginning of ours under Christ. You know.
And after this, I be and lo, they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid, and yet does fight.
Right. So those that were gathered together to subdue Christ, they were so afraid, but they fought anyway, right? After seeing him in all his armor, but they went to war with him regardless. So they actually have a hope that they actually have a chance against them. I guess enough end of the world movies got them motivated, right? To say, yeah, we can beat the aliens. Or I guess the aliens, because why is that black guy in the middle? And why is he so large and got his eyes and oh man. Hey, shoot him anyway. shoot him. Take out all the big guns, take out all the nukes we've been keeping on the ground for all these years. Aim them at him. So they're gonna fight anyway, you know.
And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue cast out sparks and tempest.
Right, so he didn't lift a sword even to the battle. He said he just let out this thing came out of his mouth that was like a mixture of wind and fire and all different types of destructive elements, right? This representing what? The power of the word, because remember, powerful, sharper than a two-edged sword, right? If the word is like a fire, you read the scriptures too. So going into the word itself being established the nations down, right? Bringing them to their knees, right? As the judgment singes them. It says, as it had been a blast of fire out of his lips, a flaming breath out of his tongue, he cast out sparks and tempest. Remember, even in John's vision, he saw a double-edged sword come out of his mouth, right? All representing that same thing, that judgment of God that's to come upon them. Christ himself being the word of God, speaking the words of God. Read verse 11 and then we'll stop.
And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire in a great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid.
Right, so the aftermath of that fire came out, said just what? Pulverized group that was trying to come against Christ. Imagine this vision in your mind's eye, right? All these forces, right? A war of grand proportions, all trying to wage war against Christ and his angels. And then for him to emit this thing out of his mouth and the thing just go forth and then just, right? That they just become dust. You know, just imagine seeing that. When we read about it now, we try to imagine it, but imagine being Ezra actually seeing this vision. Right? How would it make you feel?
And another thing is, we so used to things being created out of things that we see. Imagine that most he can make things happen that we have not seen before, like things that is not in a metal, in the form of metal already. So the Most High is all power. He can tap into anything that we haven't recognized yet. Right? But there's another forms like we so used to, this is the faith, when it's the faith. If we're gonna make something, we gotta make something out of something that's already here. But with the Most High can make something out of something that we never seen, that's not in existence.
Or out of things that do exist out that we've probably never seen before. Like we've seen, you know, guns and ammo. We may have seen things we haven't seen at hand, you know, firsthand. But it's the same thing, but just on a level of magnitude this much. Or the things that we've seen combined in a way we've never seen before. We strike the fear in the hearts of men. Like we always go into it during Passover. We read about the wisdom of Solomon. He goes into the plagues of Egypt in more detail. Things that you don't normally see. Like you don't see fire and hail mixed together, or animals rushing not being consumed. Right? These are, like you said, things that we would normally see, other things that we do see. By that. Or what is this darkness? Like no matter what, I can't see anything. Right? It wasn't just like in the movies, movies like that, where he tried to depict the 10 plagues of Egypt. Darkness is always just, you know, oh, it's like a power outage. Kind of about what's going on in Puerto Rico, right? But and that wasn't a power outage. More than just lights wouldn't come on. It was, we're talking more than just, you know, being out in the country, you know, no city lights and the moon is the new moon. No, we're talking like you don't see anything, just through tar or something, but you can still breathe. We haven't seen that. You know? So yeah, it's something. So to see it, it's terrifying enough. To experience it hands-on is even more terrifying. That people were just dropping dead just at the sight of some of the things they were seeing. Like you said, that the Most High was manifesting. They just dropped dead. It was that hard.
Kind of Psalms 9:16. To look at what your brother is talking about. Psalms 9:16, it says, "The Lord is known by the judgment which He executed." Right. So, a lot of times when we think of the Most High, we have people who question the Most High. Well, even those who believe on God, and they feel that God came to them and spoke to them through an individual, which can be true, right?
Okay.
But it says the Most High is known by the judgment which He executed. So as we read and have read many different prophecies that have happened in the past, that is happening right now, that is still to happen, we use that as our guide. The Most High has given us and said, look, the Most High said this was going to happen with Russia and Germany, France. The Most High said this was going to happen as far as with the different hurricanes and earthquakes and things that's happening within the earth. The Most High said this was going to happen, such and such. Most people look at the Most High and say, yeah, He told me that I was going to get this job. Right? So that's God.
Right.
The Most High can tell you that this war is about to happen. The Most High is telling you that these natural disasters are going to happen. But you should or should not eat because of, wisdom that follows it. People don't pay attention to those things. And they question God and His existence. So the verse is telling you that the Most High is known by the judgment which He executed. You know what the Most High's judgment is. Unless you come and you find out and you read and you use the guide, which is the Bible, and say this is what the Most High said was going to happen. This is what He's capable of. He did this in Acts. He turned things dark. He took elements and retransformed them. Right? So now when these things happen in the future or happen in our time, Most High is at it again, right? Whereas others are just totally blindsided. They're like, what is this? This is some alien. The aliens are invading us. They're doing this to us. So who's doing us? Oh, Esau. This is a conspiracy. No, it's the Most High. Right. The Most High is known. He's showing us His power. That's what He wanted to show us during the time when we came out of Egypt. He wanted to make His name known in the earth. That's what it said in the scriptures. Right. To make His name known amongst the heathen. That they feared Him, but we respected Him. One of the things that we see that's happening, that's about to happen, is the Most High showing His power. Right. And at the same time, showing His mercy to us. Right? Only us. He's showing His power, He's doing these certain things, but He's also giving mercy to the elect. He's pardoning them, He's giving them opportunities, chances to repent, to get it right, until they run out of time, or we run out of time, and then the Lord will come down on us.
So we get that chance.
So just to show that the Most High shows us, the things, and you can talk to the best scholars, Bible scholars. They cannot break down those 1,000 years. You could go on the web and search. You find a bunch of crazy explanations for the 1,000 years, because the 1,000 years talking about them. They would not condemn them. So that's why if you go anywhere, any books, big books you can find out, you cannot find out the breakdown. That's how you know that the Most High revealed it to His servant.
Not only just 1,000 years about them being the beast,
right,
or the war, right? You go online and you'll see about the breakdown of Daniel, how it goes into the Babylonians and the Persians and Medes and so forth and so on. They'll kind of get that, but what's in Revelations about them being the beast, they don't bring that. They don't go into the seven heads to talk about that. They ain't gonna bring that out like that. Off to them. They're not showing you that. Did they go into their 1,000-year being in prison and then coming out of it to go and deceive? Well, that's us. We're the ones that was locked in the dark ages, and we were the ones that deceived them. You're not going to be that.
What's that?
What I'm saying is, this is why I see Most High sending all these different hurricanes, one after another. Go all over. So the last one was Marie. He had Irma.
Speak nice and loud too.
He had Irma, Jose, Maria, and the first one who was which person Javier?
Yes.
They just rotate, go through the alphabet, rotate names.
Yeah, because he had the first one was I remember Harvey was the first. Yeah.
Technically, it's not the first. This is the first the news talked about.
Yeah,
because they always start
3 weeks.
Because they always start with the alphabet.
Yeah, that's how I figured it out, because you just go to Africa, Maria,
Right.
And you go back, Irma, it was before that's Harvey.
And Harvey.
Because you had ones before that probably were just so small or didn't really catch that much,
Right.
momentum. It just kind of died out, so you really didn't talk about that.
We didn't talk about it. Only ones we talk about the ones that really go.
Exactly. Yep.
And Maria now is the last one, right?
No.
I think there's ones behind her now too.
There will be more.
So it'll be
I know,
Hurricane
so far at this particular time.
Hurricane Orenthal, James Simpson.
Hurricane Nancy.
Hurricane Owen. Yeah, but you're right though. The fact Most High uses the storm to judge the people. Like he read in Psalms, the Lord is known by the judgment which he executed. People in the world in ignorance, they pray to God and go, "Oh God, please stop the storms from destroying." They don't realize the Most High is bringing the storms. They're gonna pray the Most High to stop what he's doing, and he said he would do, and why?
Right.
So yeah, it was written exactly. So the more sound prayer of a more sound mind would be, Lord, please, have mercy upon Israel that they may see this disaster and repent and serve you, that they may escape such destruction. May this be a wake-up call so that enough of us can turn back to the Lord, right? That should be the prayer we make, that those of us that have knowledge.
Right, it's the same thing during the time of Sodom and Gomorrah, where you had a righteous brother and his family that was there, and Most High said, "Listen, the judgment is I'm going to destroy this place, but I'm coming to save those who are righteous."
Right.
Allow Lot to escape. So it wasn't Lot prayed that the Most High wouldn't destroy it.
He wouldn't do it.
Right? It was that he was going to do it, and he was like, "Okay, got to go and turn and go." So it's the same thing for us now. We know it's written. The judgment is written. The Most High is going to destroy this place. He's going to start plaguing it. Destroy it. Yeah. So it's not us to say, "Oh, Most High, don't destroy it. Just give me some time. Let me get my chips up. Give me some time. Let me build a family or whatever." No, the Most High is going to. The Most High has mercy on you and protects you, gives you enough wisdom that you can sustain yourself, and you can escape.
Right.
It's going to happen. It's happening. So,
right.
Like you said, the 2/3 will do that. They'll pray, "Oh no, God, please bring peace and stop this war, and allow Trump to be, the man that he is, so he can be," and all this other stuff. Yeah.
Change your spots, Lord. Change that leopard spots, please.
I heard when he was talking last night about he was talking about registration. How they were cheated, and Trump was talking about against Trump. They had this ledger that they were going to do, but this particular one, I forgot his name. He said he was against.
So back Revelation 20, let's read on.
Yeah.
This is verse 10. Revelation 20 and 10. It says, "And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever." See that? So now this is an interesting prophecy, because what this is going into is what we read before. Remember, we read in previous chapters of Revelation, I think Kansamat, you were going into it, about the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. We did understanding on how it represents what Esau and his government, right? His main brand is the government. What he's trying to refashion as his new world order, which comes in 3 flavors, right? The new political world order, the new economic world order, and the new religious world order, right? Because that's a counterfeit for our righteous government and what we have in our government, which is you have the king, the captain of the host, and the high priest. You have those 3 offices within the righteous government. So they took that same model and just kind of corrupted it, used it for their own purpose. When it came to the United States, was it Washington, D.C., which represents the captain of the host, because the president runs the army, right? And you got the crown, which is London, the stock market that's there, that represents the king. That's why they call it the crown. And you got the Vatican supposed to be their corruption of the high priest, the Pope, right? So they take what we have and they try to twist it and do the Lord's, they try to create their own Lord's Prayer through their New World Order. Our kingdom come, our will be done as it is out in heaven. They try to do it their own way. But now saying that, yeah, all this effort to establish this government, all the lies, the theft, the murders, the deception, the oppression, the profanity, right? All the sins they committed, it's not going to matter because they're going to be cast into this fire when the destruction happens. Them and their government, right? Because crime doesn't pay. Right? They say it in the world very jokingly, but yeah, crime pays. You just got to get away with it. So you got to be smart about how you do, your criminality. You do your dirt, you got to do it in the dark, do it alone. Kill anybody who knows. That's how you stay in power. But anyone who's lived that life, they know about it, that knew. You are already asleep with one eye open for the rest of your life because you're waiting for the next guy or next girl that wants what you have to kill you in your sleep. Put something in your drink. Mess with your car or something. However they want to do it. You gotta live your life that way because that's how you came to power. You came to power the same way, doing the same tricks. So you're waiting for the karma to come back around and catch you. Absolutely. Even atheists believe in that. Even atheists will acknowledge karma, right? So that's how they live. So it shouldn't be surprised when we read this and see, yeah, this is the end they're going to find because look how they establish themselves. Murder, deception, oppression, profanity. Now these things are coming to a head and it's falling upon their own. They'll be tormented day and night forever and ever. So they're going to be destroyed by this, and those that survive are going to go into captivity. Right? So that's their hell and their torment, being in the lowest state and actually going to the grave. Right? Facing the captivity and death. Let's read on to find out. Verse 12. This is why the milk is so important, right, Kahan? Or Kahanya? To know about what the three heavens are, what the two hells are, right? Verse 12, it says, and I saw the dead buried in before power, and the books were open. And another book was open, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which are written in the books according to their works. So you got the book of life, which pretty much the scriptures, the law, and you have everyone else's book. This book is the real dossier, not Esau's version of, New World Order. I want to keep an eye on everybody, right? Big brothers watching, keep tabs on what you spend and where you go. That's them trying to do what the Most High does perfectly. Everything they thought, felt, and did. This life and all their lives before, right? If we don't even know who we were before. Right. But that's all in this book for everybody, every soul. So these books are open for every soul. And they're looking at, okay, weighing the righteousness and the wickedness, right? Means the righteousness, destruction. Wickedness outweighs righteousness, destruction. Oh, a little bit closer, captivity. Oh, even kill, destruction. Oh, your righteous outweighs your wickedness. You did good works, what you learned for his most recent life. Give him everlasting life. Give him power over one city. Let him be a doorman, right? Like we talk about. Let me just be a doorman in the kingdom. Let me at least make the team. I don't care if I'm JV. I don't got to be varsity. Let me at least make the team. I don't care if I'm third string. Let me make the team. So you got third string, second string, first string. Right? So based on our righteous or wicked works throughout the ages, that's how all the souls are going to be judged, right? In a nutshell. That's what this is talking about. It says, and the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and dealt the dead which were in them. And they were judged, every man according to their works. So remember, just like you have the one group, the 1/3 of Israel being delivered, called to meet the Most High in the air, is going to the rest of the group and what they have to face, right? The grave or captivity, right? One or the other. Yes, into the lake of fire. This is the second death. So the first resurrection is what we want. The second death is what we want to avoid, right? It's the destruction that 2/3 of our people in the heathen are going to have to face. Right? For our people, they're going to face destruction because they won't go into captivity. But with the heathen, they're going to face either destruction by a sword or by, a disease or by just being burnt up or, whatever the Most High sees fit. Those that remain, they're going to go into captivity, right, under the children of Israel. It says this is the second death. Verse 15, I want to get a link for verse 15. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So whosoever was not found written in the book of life. So this book is referenced way back when. Even Moses talked about this. A link with verse 15. Exodus chapter 32. So Exodus 32, I'll read this. Exodus 32, 31, and I'll read down to 33. So Exodus 32 and 31 reads, and Moses returned unto the Lord, or Yahweh, and said, sinned a great sin and have made them gods of gold. So we built the golden calf, right? When Moses went to commune with the Heavenly Father on the mount, right? This is the aftermath, after what happened. Verse 32, yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of thy book, which thou hast written, right? So Lord, please forgive their sin. And if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of thy book, which thou hast written. So Moses is speaking about something that he was shown, obviously. Remember, he was in the mount already for 40 days and nights, being shown all different types of things that the Most High did, is doing, and will do, even back then. So he knows about that book, same book that Revelation is talking about. Verse 33, and Yahweh said unto Moses, whosoever have sinned against me, him will I blot out of my book. So he's not speaking to Moses. He said, no, I'm not talking about you, but those who have sinned, right? Them will I blot out of my book, right? And that with commandments, right? When you weigh it all on the balance, that have found what? Lacking, right? Like the writing on the wall, right? And are found wanting, right? Him will I blot out of my book. It's also mentioned in the book of Psalms. Let's go to Psalms chapter 69.
So the second say, you knew he was in the book.
Yeah.
And he's saying, you don't have mercy and forgive them, but if you can't forgive them, then he's doing like what Paul did.
I curse myself.
Right, I curse myself.
Yep.
Block me out of the book.
Yep.
Right? Because that's like us right now.
Well,
We
should
don't know if we in the book. We hope that we in the book. We're striving to be in the book, right? To make sure that we're found worthy. He's like, don't include me for the sake of them.
It's the definitely example of leadership, that spirit of self-sacrifice. Sacrifice yourself for the whole. That's something we have to question ourselves as brothers in these times, because we see our brothers in our camp, other camps out there, right, big and small. You know, do we have that spirit? Is our spirit more of a, yeah, the hell you, you destroy what you're gonna get, you deserve what you're gonna get. See you in the lake of fire, right? Yeah, I hope you get in the lake of fire. You're 2/3. Just writing folks off, you know? As opposed to, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. Father, lay not the sin to their charge. Do we have that spirit like Christ did, like Stephen did, like we're reading now Moses? We have that spirit. That spirit more of a anger towards our brother, right? Anger because they won't do the right thing, yet we don't want to look at our own wickedness, right? We don't want to give ourselves the same chance. We want someone to give ourselves the chance. No longer ask for the same chance. We get amnesia. Oh, no. I can't. You can. You just won't. But the Heavenly Father did for you.
Get the plank in there, right?
Huh?
Get the plank in your eye, right?
Oh, yeah. Was it the beam? Got the beam in mine, worried about the mote in yours. Psalms 69. What did Peter say? How often Christ, when our brother offended us, and we forgive him? 7 times? Christ said, I say not unto you 7 times, but 70 times 7. Paul said, Peter said, Lord, increase our faith.
You bring fire from heaven. Fire, right?
Right.
Burn them up.
Right. Peter said, increase our faith, because he do. Most of us, we can't handle that. We want revenge. I'm gonna get you. You had the best of me. We won't have that spirit against the heathen that wrong us. We get that spirit against our own brother. Yeah, I'll make you pay. Yeah, I forgave you. I'm not gonna forget. It really is the spirit. You say that out loud with your mouth, but in your heart, you still haven't forgiven your brother. You know? So you got to be careful with our soul as far as how we deal. Now, once again, it doesn't mean be a pushover. It doesn't mean leave yourself open to harm's way. You know, if your brother or sister has a problem, that they're trying to get control of themselves, don't just say, oh, I forgive them. No, forgive them, yes, but then seek help for that brother or sister. Right? You know, a lot of people deal with different issues, you know, physical issues, emotional issues, definitely spiritual issues, different types of addictions, right? Of behavior and of substances. So, you know, when you're addicted, you say and do all types of stuff to get that dopamine rush. Oh my gosh, that's my family. How could they say that to me? The drug said it. The addiction's saying it, right? They're out their mind. They're out of their right mind. All they care about is getting that next hit. Help them with their problem, right? So they don't say or do those things again. Not to say that they're not going to be judged for it, but you in your right mind, be aware of that. Or learn about that. Read up about it if you don't know already through experience. Like I said, this is the spirit we need to have when it comes to our brethren. Otherwise, there's no chance for any of us. So this is Psalm 69. Whoever's dialed in, can you just do star 60 mutual line? We're getting a slight echo. Unless you have a comment to make. There's a delay, so I don't think they heard me yet. I think you're listening on the teleconference and you're watching us on the YouTube, which is a little bit later. So let's do a star 6 so that we don't get that feedback, please. All right, thanks. So Psalm 69. I haven't wrote it down yet. Psalms 69. Am I in the right chapter? Oh, I'm ahead. Oops. Psalms 69, and we're going to read verse 28. He's talking about the destruction that those that do wickedly against God should face. Psalm 69 and 28. He writes, David even writes, let them, referring to those wicked that don't want to follow the Lord, be blotted out of the book of the living and not be written with the righteous. So he knows about the book too. So something revealed to the prophets of old, the patriarchs of old. And like you were saying earlier, right? You want to be in that book. You definitely want to make that team. You want to be a part of that number. You want to be those saints that go marching in. It's just worth it. There's nothing here now that we could have is worth being on that list. Nothing that Satan can provide you in this setup, spiritual Satan, against Esau and other nations, and our people that follow them, nothing that they can offer you as compared to having that glory to go into the kingdom with honor and dignity. Nothing like it.
But
Oh, we don't?
Not even you are.
We don't? You know, we know every day we make the choice to make the team. Choice that will guarantee us a seat. That's how we do it. Right? That's why the prophets that, you know, came back in the regeneration, people were like, oh, they weren't like, yeah, I'm Elijah, yeah, follow me. No, they were like, no, I'm not. They couldn't see it. They showed forth who they were, even when they didn't know who they were before. They say when we had those discussions, you know, oh, yeah, you know, your brother, you know, could be Samson, brother, you know. But it's like, we don't know who we are. But be righteous anyway, regardless of who you were. You might be a totally different soul that's going to do great works right now in this time. Right? That may have not have been, you know, noteworthy as far as what we see that's written amongst the angels, they know, but as far as them being a story about you, may not be there. You might be writing your story right now. Acts 29. We are Acts 30. We are Acts 31. We pick up where the apostles left off in Acts 29 over these last couple of decades. So write you a story right now. Get you a name right now in righteousness for Christ's sake. And then you will in turn guarantee your seed every day. You have a choice every day that the Most High blesses us with. Every day, make that choice to do right by the Lord. Do sin any day, right? Either unknowingly or knowingly, because we succumb to temptation. Make it that much more effort to do the right thing the next day and to turn a sinner from the error of their way, because we know when we do that, we save a soul from death and cover a multitude of sins. So we know when we do the work to edify Israel, we then what? Have a chance to clean our slate. The more people that we warn, and out of those folks that we warn, if we get a soul or two, even more, to come back to righteousness, right? That's a benefit to us if we have sin and knowledge, right? That's what we say. The expression was kind of funny when you hear it. Selfish for salvation, right? You want to be selfish for salvation by selflessly teaching your brothers and sisters the right way, because you get a great reward for doing so.
Yeah. He gave me the last hour.
Yep. There you go. How come he gets paid the same thing? Did you not agree? Did you not all agree for the payment? What I want? Can I not do what I will with mine? I'm kind of paraphrasing, but we're talking about the same parable, right? Yeah. So that was Exodus 32, 31 to 33. Also Psalms 69 and verse 28. Psalm 69 and 28. So yeah, we want to be a part of that number for sure. We want to go marching in. Like another brother said before, he said, that day's going to be the big I told you so day. I say this on top of that. You want to be the person saying, I told you, as you're going up. People trying to maybe, who knows, they might try to grab your leg as you go up. Take me is like, tried to tell you. Tried to tell you before. You didn't listen. Sorry. New body. 2/3.
And another thing is we always it's good because you always look towards the future when the second coming of Christ and the sky open up, right? And then we hope that we get take off from the chariot.
Yeah.
The key is we hope to be here. Like you said, it's a daily thing. What if you're not here tomorrow?
Yeah.
You pass tomorrow. That's gonna be a life thing.
Yeah.
Not just the second coming of Christ. You may not be here to see the second coming of Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I worded it that way.
Right. It's righteous up to that day.
Like the parable. That's why Christ said what? You don't know if he's going to come at midnight, morning, right? Take a little time for yourself, right? That you may have another day to do the same. For your own sake, for your family's sake, for the nation's sake. However many days the Most High every day. Ask for that same thing. Right? Kan y'all come in?
It's the Lord remember me when you in your kingdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like on the cross. You know, one want to be saved in that time. The other one said, you know, remember me, right? Some people say that. Yeah, might say, yeah, I want to be like that thief on the cross. It's right there.
Wow.
You just reminded me of when you said that. I thought about the last verse of Nehemiah. This is Nehemiah chapter 13 and 31. Nehemiah 13:31. It says, "And for the wood offering at times appointed, and for the first fruits," establishing the church, right, and supporting it. But then the last precept, and it says, "Power for good." So even Nehemiah asked that.
Nehemiah what, 13?
And 31, the very last verse of the book of Nehemiah. "Remember me, O my power for good." So yeah. Zakar, remember. We read in Corinthians 3 earlier, right? Those whose works don't abide, they shall suffer loss. But they shall be saved, yet so is by fire. So all Israel will be saved, like Romans 11:26 tells us. But now, it's all about how you get saved, right? Remember Christ, he tells us too. We link that one too. And then we'll close out the chapter. Matthew chapter 5. And Pathak, let me have you read this, Bible Trial. Matthew chapter 5. In verse 19. In 19.
And what we read, what chapter, what verse we stop on Psalm 69?
I just read 28. Just that one by itself. So Matthew 5 and 19. This is a good scripture for the milk topic of the law is not done away with. To show brothers and sisters that we're still supposed to keep the commandments. So you got that up with that?
5 and 19. It said, "Whosoever therefore shall be break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven."
See that? It's the same subject. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so. That's having the mark of the beast in your forehead and in your hand. Right? Meaning you found the ways of the world. Wickedness. It's spiritual. Right? It's not what Esau tried to redefine it as. Like he tried to redefine the Antichrist, like we talked about in the beginning. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. He's going to be there. He shall be considered the least. Right? He's going to come back in that 1,000-year period, like you read in Revelations, 4, verse 5, earlier on in that chapter. It'll be one of those 2/3 that comes back to the children of the 1/3. You will consider the least in the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven, right? So that's what we want. We want to be called great. And that greatness starts right now. By the choices we make right now, every day, that the Most High gives us with his breath in us. His Spirit in us. Con, so we'll stop here. So we finished chapter 20. We'll take a half-hour break. We'll reconvene around 2:06. Feel free to stretch your legs, go outside, get some fresh air. At least it's a nice day up here in this part of the world, this part of the country. Feel free to get something to eat. Something doesn't require heat, of course. It's Sabbath. See everybody a little bit after 2 p.m. Shalom, and talk to you then.